Welcome back, everybody. Monday morning, off and rolling on this overcast day. Supposed to warm up a little bit. We'll get back to more spring-like temperatures later on in the week. Things are on fire for those covering FCS football. I told when we had Sam on, we're going to do this throughout the year. There's no shortage of topics to discuss, especially on a Monday, and we're right back in that basket here today as Sam Herder joins us from Hero Sports, BetMGM. He joins us each and every Monday at 9:35. I think this is the fourth week in a row I've got Sacramento State circled on my to-do list because of what their president said. Now, we talked about it a little bit on Friday, and I know he apologized for it, but I think he went back and almost doubled down in saying with FCS being JV football. Give me your interpretation of what he said and what he was trying to, I guess, come across with his message.
Yeah, so he was doing a Reddit Ask Me Anything. So he was answering questions, whether it be about the university, whether it be about athletics, new stadiums, FBS pushing, all of that. And someone asked him, about the FBS pushing, why that is, and he was kind of explaining how their media value just being FBS pretty much automatically increases there. And he was trying to make a comparison, and I tweeted this too, like, I don't really care that he said this. I understand what he was trying to say, but he was like really trying to quote unquote dumb it down to explain the difference between FBS and FCS. And he said for Division One Olympic sports, this isn't verbatim, but he was basically saying that Olympic sports for Division One is all varsity. Football is different, where you have FBS and FCS, where FBS that you can consider that the varsity, and FCS is kind of the JV, the junior varsity. It's and so I kind of understood the kind of the metaphor or whatever he was trying to get at, but of course, when you're already this outspoken about things, and there's some people that kind of get turned off on how outspoken they have been about making that push. When they see calling FCS JV, they're gonna run with that and talk about how disrespectful it was. I don't really. And I said too, I like Division One AA more than FCS.
Absolutely.
Like
sign me up for that tomorrow if they would do it. Absolutely.
but I think they got rid of that in mid 2000s because One AA sounded too much like JV. But I'm like, well, some people don't know that FCS is Division One. They just see
Correct.
FCS and they're like, what is that? So
Yep.
I don't know. I didn't make much of that comment as like some controversy or anything. I understood what he was getting at, but of course, a lot of other people around the FCS saw that and talked about how disrespectful that was.
But here's the thing, and Sac State is going to go out there and do what they want. Last night, Sam, they offered David Mack, who's a wide receiver from Moorhead High School, he'll be a member of the class of 2027, which is right in the wheelhouse if they're going to move up to FBS, that they've now come to North Dakota State's backyard and offered a player who's pretty darn good. That's his second Division I offer. I saw it last night. I'm like, okay, all right, Sac State, you're on my radar.
Yeah, and this is, I mean, we talked about it last week. The approval process for this has to go through the FBS Oversight Committee first, and then the Division I Council. And there is no guarantee that
Nope.
this is going to get approved. It's more likely than not, but just having this more, because I'm sure there's a lot of FCS schools behind the scenes that are kind of putting themselves in a position where if the FBS window ever opens, like they're ready to make that jump. They're just not outspoken about it. They're holding their cards pretty close to their chest. Sac State is doing the opposite, like publicly and privately guaranteeing it. And while that's rubbing a lot of people the wrong way, you're also getting your name out there and you're getting excitement out there and you're recruiting guys and you're telling them, look at all this NIL money we can, we're pretty close to
Yep.
kind of, unpacking. Look at this new stadium concepts that we're showing the public. Look at, like, we're going to be FBS in a couple of years. Like, you can help us be an FBS team that is competing really well. So like that recruiting pitch is all there. Plus the head coach, Coach Marion is a well-known guy. He's put together a really good staff. And so there is positives and negatives of being this publicly outspoken, but I think with some of the recruits they're getting or offering or the transfers they're getting, I think this kind of public campaign is helping them in that recruiting.
Let's talk a couple other things here. I'm done with Sac State for now. We've hit them every week. We need a break. Today's a really big day for FCS football as well. The Oversight Committee is meeting today, Sam, with the potential to act on making 12 games a thing in 2026. I know we've talked about it a little bit over the last couple weeks. My sense is on this, and this is just an opinion, I think this is going to happen. Have you heard one way or the other on on where they're leaning on this?
It seems like it will pass, and they will have go forward with the recommendation to make it a 12 game season every year, especially too because it's not required. And I think we talked about this too, where this would allow you to play a fourth non-conference game, but you don't have to. These last couple of years, or this year and last season, there were 12 game seasons just because of the calendar, and you saw a lot of teams play that 12th game, but there were some other teams that didn't schedule that 12th game. They just stuck at 11. And so I think the fact that it is optional to play a 12th game, that helps because some teams either don't want to play that 12th game because it's tough to schedule or it's more expensive or it just doesn't work for them. Like they don't have to play that 12th game. And so I think there's a lot of momentum behind it. Coaches seem to like it. AD seem to like it. It moves the season back to week 0. So that provides more potential TV exposure. And the thing too, in the wording, it's not just 2 Saturdays before Labor Day. Teams could play as early as 2 Thursdays
Thursdays.
prior to Labor Day. So you could have Thursday, Friday, Saturday games before. I mean, I'm sure the FBS will slowly move into that week as well, but you could have an opportunity for, you know, NDSU and Montana to play Thursday, like, that Thursday on ESPN. That's just a huge
Yep.
hypothetical, but I think there is some media value in that to not only play 2 Saturdays beforehand, but also, 2 Thursdays before, what has typically been that week.
Do we call it week 0? Or we call it week 1. I'm calling it week 1. I don't know about you, but it's going
Yeah,
to be week 1 to me.
I think in the FCS starting in 2026, like it would be the new week 1 because I think most teams would play that 12th game, especially for those that want to position themselves in the playoffs. We talk about how many Division 1 wins and all that, so I
Yep.
think most teams would play that 12th game.
So the 26th season, that first Saturday of September the 5th, it's actually that late. So we're talking now potentially the first games would be August 29th. Would there be somebody crazy to want to play August 22nd? I guess that's not out of the realm of possibility, right?
Yeah, you just keep on moving week 0 back as well. I don't know. I'm sure there's. I don't know if we'll ever get to that point, but if you move it, if week 0 becomes the new week 1, then some people might want to be week 0 because that's even more of a lone spotlight, which could come with, because that week 0 was supposed to be like the FCS spotlight, but then
Correct.
the FBS realized that, hey, there's only 2 games going on week 0. Let's add 3 FBS games to week 0 because then we can get more money because it's more TV eyeballs on us. So maybe things keep on scooting back, but I think the new week 0 being the new week 1 would be good for the
Just
FCS.
and the wordage of this, just so we're clear on it, was, as Sam mentioned, 2 Thursdays prior to Labor Day. So for that year, for you planning out there, August 27th, 2026 would be the first permitted date. And I think you make a lot of sense on that they could maybe go and schedule again. Who knows? But everything I've heard is the momentum on that is moving in a positive direction for that to go forward. Hero Sports, you guys had a story last night reporting on, it looks like something we've been following for a while here on, I don't know, merger's not the right word, but the Summit League and the Missouri Valley Football Conference becoming more hand in hand, Sam, on some decision making. Obviously, the Valley is going to need a new commissioner. Everything I've heard is Josh Fenton might be the leader in the clubhouse, who's the current commissioner of the Summit League, which leads to your reporting last night. Give us the breakdown on what potentially could happen here with the Valley and the Summit League.
Yeah, so this is something that I don't really know if people outside the conference, like the fans, will really notice much difference. It's more of kind of a conference structure type of thing where the Missouri Valley Football Conference, while it works together with the Summit League and the Missouri Valley Conference, the Valley football is still technically considered a single sport
Right.
conference. It's kind of a standalone, like the day-to-day operations. Its budget, which can be challenging when you're just the Valley football has its own budget and it's not necessarily getting a lot of the NCAA distributions. And I know Matt Larson was on your show last year around this time saying that's when it first came on my radar about these discussions of does it make sense for the Valley to not fold, but like morph more into either the Missouri Valley
Yep.
Conference or the Summit League and be more a part of that league. And it sounds like, and this was reporting done by our new freelance writer, Casey, who has worked many years in college athletics. He's in the consulting business, and so he's well plugged in, and he's been following this as well. It sounds like Missouri Valley football is going to fall more under Summit League. management, so to speak, and so it falls more under the day-to-day operations for the Summit League, more under the budget of the Summit League. I don't think it's going to be rebranded to Summit League football or
No.
anything like that, but it would still be the Missouri Valley Football Conference. And it just helps with kind of decision-making process, day-to-day process. It also comes with if a team joins the Summit League, they automatically join the Missouri Valley Football Conference for their football team, which was already the case, but it was more of kind of like a handshake deal.
Right.
Like it required two votes. Like, okay, UND joins the Summit League. They also need another vote for their football team to land in the Missouri Valley Football Conference. Now it's not two separate votes, it's just automatically in there. So like it doesn't really change. It's just more official in a sense. So again, is this a big deal? I think it is, but it's not something where fans are going to notice a whole lot of difference, in my opinion.
Well, it will streamline a couple things. We assume Fenton is going to take leadership of it. I would also think that a media day may come back because the Summit League basketball has that. I think that's something that I've heard has been talked about. And maybe does the league office, the league office is in St. Louis. I don't know if anybody knows that. Does the league office go to Sioux Falls? I think that makes a lot of sense as well, knowing where the power of the conference is.
Yeah, I think the media day is an important thing as well because I've been asked why doesn't the Valley have an in-person media
Media
day, and I
day.
don't know this for sure, but I think a big part of it could be budgeting
Yes.
because they have again like the NCAA distributes millions of dollars to the Summit League and the Big Sky and the NEC. Where does being a single sport football conference fall into that?
Doesn't,
Like you
yeah.
don't get
Nope.
that money funneling into you. And so if you go more into the Missouri Valley Conference, or in this case more into the Summit League, you're kind of putting those budgets together, which would help with something like a media day. And as far as like the league office, you would imagine it would move
Yeah.
to Sioux Falls with the Summit League, but I don't know that for sure either. And so I think it makes sense just with the being a single sport conference is difficult
Yes.
nowadays. And I know there's kind of been confusion of like the Missouri Valley Conference and Missouri Valley Football Conference, similar logos in the same town, but still separate from each other. They were a bit more combined in like the early 2010s, and then like I don't know when specifically, but they kind of separated a little bit as
Yeah.
far as differing a little bit. But I think folding more into one all sports conference instead of being standalone has some value.
Everybody's going to talk about members then, Sam. And we've been on this. We've been reporting that the Summit League has been actively looking at the Utah schools, Utah Valley, Southern Utah, Utah Tech. Two of those three sponsor football. And under this reporting, then those schools, if they get added, would be added for football. I did not know about the Texas schools. And can you give us a little insight on that? Abilene Christian, along with UT Arlington, doesn't play football, but the other one that's being mentioned is Tarleton State. That Tarleton was getting rumored for FBS football. What do we make of that?
Yeah, that's interesting, and this was Casey's reporting, but it looks like because the WAC is so unstable right now. The United Athletic Conference is pretty unstable right now, as well as pretty much part of the WAC, and so it looks like the Summit League. They're either going to try to get some Utah schools or Texas schools. Utah Valley, Utah Tech, Southern Utah. The Texas schools would be Tarleton State, Abilene Christian. Two really good football teams, and then UT Arlington, who doesn't sponsor football. And it sounds like Utah Valley, the ball is kind of in their court because
Yes.
they have a lot of options on where they want to go if they do decide to leave. Summit League is an option for them. Some other Western conferences are options for Utah Valley as well. And so, is there a chance that the Summit League decides to dip down into Texas and then Tarleton State and Abilene Christian join the Missouri Valley Football Conference? I don't know if that's super likely, but it is kind of in this wide discussion of Western realignment, and one team goes here,
Yeah.
and then there's a snowball effect that goes there, and then that domino hits over here, and then it could somehow impact the Dakota schools by the end of it.
Sign me up for that. I would be way on board with Abilene and Tarleton than Southern Utah and Utah Tech. I know Southern won, I think, 7 games this year, so they've been trending better, but I would take the Texas school. That seems like a long
Yeah.
shot to me, the Summit League with them than the Utah schools, though.
Yeah, and there's a bit more travel, obviously, going down to Texas, but
Yep.
it also helps in recruiting. Coaches can say, "Hey, we'll play down there at least once a year, or once every other year."
Yep.
And I think too this helps with the Summit League as far as recruiting members, because again, before the conversation was like, okay, let's say they're pitching Tarleton State and Abilene Christian, like, "Hey, come join us, for basketball and all your Olympic sports in the Summit League," and then they'll say, "Well, what happens to our football program?" And they say, well, we have a handshake deal with the Missouri Valley Football Conference. It would require a separate vote. Like, they would still need to vote you in, but more than likely that would happen, but it's not a guarantee. Now it's okay. This is a guarantee. It's
Right.
written in the agreement that if you join us in the Summit League, you don't have to worry about a separate vote to get into the Missouri Valley Football Conference. Like, that is already locked in. And so it helps with the Summit League on having that pitch of, hey, we have a spot. We for sure 100% have a spot for your football team. You could join the best FCS conference in the country.
You mentioned, I know it's not going to grab maybe fans' attention until schools come in, but this is a rather big story. We're going to have more on this coming up as the day goes on and the week goes on. Great stuff as always, Bud, and I know we'll have no shortage of things to talk about next week.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us as each and every Monday, okay?
Yep. Sounds good. Thank you.
Sam Herder joins us Monday at 9:35 here on Hot Mic, and again, those two things are going to happen. And Eric and I have been talking about this. We've been fortunate to go down to Summit League Basketball Media Day each of the last couple years. And I'll give Eric credit for this. We were driving back from Sioux Falls, and he asked me, why doesn't the Missouri Valley do this? And they used to. When the Bison first got into the conference in 2000, we went there. It was in St. Louis in 2008. And they released the preseason poll, the team, the whole thing. It was great. And they stopped. I don't know when they stopped, but it's been at least a decade more that we've been doing the first. It was a telephone call, which was lame as you get it. Then we've been doing the Zoom deal. This is going to happen, folks. I can tell you from the people that I've talked to on this, there's been enough talk about it that I have not initiated. Say why do we don't have a better social media presence? Why don't we have a in-person media day? That's going to happen, and it's probably going to happen by this year. What's the wait? Now the membership stuff, that's not going to happen until 26 if they get anybody. We talked about it late last week. I know we got to go to break. Utah Valley, they hold the whole key to this, and I've saved some time for this. We're going to do it coming up later on in the show. We'll break. We come back. We'll wrap up our first hour. Get some more football chatter coming up in hour two on a busy Monday. Glad you're joining us. Back on Hot Mic after this.